On your left, we have the Samsung QN90B Neo QLED Mini LED TV. On the right, we have the Samsung S95B QD OLED TV. Now, there's a few things that you have to know about both TVs before we get into this comparison of gaming. This whole entire comparison is going to be gaming. If you want to see a different comparison of every kind of content, I will be having those videos in the description below, as well as the product links for both of these TVs. Those will be in the description as well. They are affiliate links, so if you use that to buy anything at all, it will help out the channel. Thank you so much. Alright, so you have to know some things about these TVs before we begin. Now, the QN90B on your left, that is pre-update before everything that went wrong with this TV. It's important to note this because there has been some updates that have come out that really can mess your TV up. In terms of local dimming performance, it just gets worse with the update. Now, this doesn't affect everybody, but it has affected a lot of people. So I just want to make that aware to you guys until they release an update to the QN90B. It is tough to recommend right now. Now, the S95B on the other hand, that has a few bugs, but nothing game-breaking, nothing crazy like the QN90B does. And honestly, it's a TV that you can probably live with the bugs and never notice the bugs. Also, if you are a purist, just stay away from the QN90B and the S95B. Don't buy a Samsung TV. You're just gonna waste your time complaining about the accuracy. So there's a few things now that I need to cover about the QN90B when it comes to some of the issues that it had when I was gaming. Now, there was a color bug which would sometimes make the color gamut feel really washed out. To counteract this, I actually raised my color to 38 on the QN90B. Now, I know you're probably thinking this is really high, and I did this and I really wanted to try to match my S95B. In terms of brightness, is the QN90B brighter than the S95B? The answer is sometimes. The S95B matched it more than I would have originally thought. Honestly, with the S95B being an OLED, I never would have expected it to be beating an LCD TV in terms of brightness, but it does. At times, it does. So that's it, right? The QN90B just loses to the S95B in the video there, right? It's not so cut and dry. There are definitely some things where the QN90B will match or look just as good as the S95B. At the end of the day, the S95B is still OLED technology. It will still suffer from some of the OLED weaknesses, though you are getting a much better experience out of the S95B than any other regular OLED. Now, the brightness advantage that you get from LCDs, on the other hand, you're not quite getting that all the time. At times, the S95B almost looks like it matches the QN90B. If you get into some really high brightness, high daylight areas, the QN90B will be noticeably slightly brighter. And the other times that it's not, it's gonna almost look identical. And that's just one of those things where the S95B impresses me so much on that department that you're not getting the same amount of wins that you do from LCD versus just WRGB OLED, like an LG OLED or a Sony OLED. These are really significant differences here. So the QN90B does have a really good brightness level. It can get super bright, but for whatever reason in game mode you see less brightness advantages than you do outside of game mode. There's also a note here that in VRR the local dimming performance is slightly reduced. It's not reduced all the way. It's not something that will bother you or make you not want to use VRR. It's still usable, but it does have to be noted. Also, the local dimming performance as a whole is not as good as outside of game mode. There is not the same ability that local dimming high has for the QN90B, so that's also something that I have to note. Of course, since the S95B is a OLED, it's a QD OLED, it does suffer from the same weaknesses like I mentioned, so burn-in concerns are still there. Now, for me, I'm not really concerned with most modern OLED TVs burning in on video games or really any content, unless you're somebody who really abuses the TV and just plays one game nonstop and you don't watch anything in between. That's the only time I would have some concern, or maybe if you're using it as a computer monitor, which again, I think you can still do, but you just have to be more aware when you are using it as a monitor. If you're just using it as a casual gaming display, chances of you actually ever encountering burn-in are really low. That said, nothing is guaranteed, but there are a ton of preventive measurements in place, just like LG OLEDs, where the TV will dim down if it is detecting a static window. This ASBL feature can be engaged and reduced if you want to just select low, or you can turn it off completely, though I do not recommend that. By default, it is on low. That's what I would keep it on. You also have pixel shift available to you as well. You can turn that on. It is on by default. Best bet is to just leave it on. This will also reduce the likelihood of you seeing the TV dim down to protect itself in a lot of movies as well. This is something that I've noticed when I had pixel shift on. I did not notice as much dimming on the screen, but when I had pixel shift off, I did notice more dimming on darker movies. Next up, I want to talk about screen uniformity. Now, this is a big deal. To me, when you're playing video games, you will notice some dirty screen effect on LCD TVs. It's just inevitable. Honestly, I haven't seen an LCD TV that didn't have some sort of DSE. Just looking around, panning the skies, that's all you have to do and you will see some DSE. We're talking about the cleanest screen that I've seen in reviewing TVs, period, so far is definitely the S95B. Alright, so I wanted to make sure I included a reflection test when it came to these two TVs, because a lot has been made about how light hitting the S95B is going to turn the whole thing pink or it's going to lift the blacks, and really that is sort of overblown in a way, because if you're in a bright room watching an OLED, you're not going to notice lifted blacks really at all, and in a dark room you're probably not going to have a light on, and if you do, it's probably not going to be aimed at the TV, and that's really the only time the TV is going to feel like it has those lifted blacks. For example, in this video here, you can see the light test that I am doing. Now, I still don't recommend a OLED TV, even the S95B, in a super bright room. If you have no way of controlling your light, you're not going to want to get an OLED TV. You're just not going to want to do it. So stick with LCD if you are in a super bright room and you can't control the light. Now, if you can control the light and your room's not that bright, you don't have any direct light hitting it, I think the S95B is plenty bright enough for like a medium lit room. It doesn't have to be dark all the time with the S95B. You can watch this in the daytime comfortably well. And this is something that I want to stress with people, that there are people going to tell you that's good for a bright room. I disagree. I would not buy this for a super bright room. But again, people have different clarifications for what they call a bright room or a super bright room. If you have the lights above your TV, the QN90B will produce a rainbow-like effect on the screen. That could be annoying for some people. I know I've heard from some viewers that this is something that is a deal breaker for them. So I know that sometimes people are in a room where they can't really control the light. That's something to be aware of. On the S95B, that's not a concern, though you will have a lifted black look to it. And again, though, if you have a light on, you're not going to notice this most likely. Overall, the S95B and the QN90B, they do a really good job with handling reflections. So do I recommend the QN90B for gaming? If it is going to be fixed with the firmware issues, then yes, I can recommend it for sure. I just wouldn't recommend it to somebody buying in the 55 or 65 inch, because you do have the S95B available. And I say the same thing for people looking at other TVs as well. I just think that the S95B in that size, the 55, 65 inch range, is going to be hands down the TV you're going to want to get if you're considering gaming at all on a TV. In larger sizes, I would absolutely get the QN90B over, say, an LG C2. If you're wanting the best brightness and the best color available to you right now in a TV when it comes to those sizes. Of course, right now I cannot do that because the QN90B has those issues that really need an update, right? So check into that before you buy the TV to see if those issues are fixed from whenever you're watching this TV. But as I'm making this video right now, those issues are not fixed. Also, be aware that the QN85B and the QN90B, not too much difference, honestly, when it comes to the gaming performance, other than brightness and highlights themselves. They will be slightly brighter on the QN90B, though again, it's not really noticeable in most circumstances, and it still will be brighter than most regular OLEDs. So yeah, I can recommend both of these TVs for gaming. But for me, the S95B does win this competition. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and if you want to learn more about the S95B, check out the videos right here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.